Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. If you've been here before, welcome back. If you're new here, please click on like and subscribe. Take a minute to drop a comment down below. Let me know whether you like the video or not. Today we're going to be building a maple concealment box. I'm not going to put the hardware on the bottom. You can choose the hardware you like. So I uploaded one of these the other day in walnut. I'm going to do it today in maple. I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I'm going to do the internal box first. I had a bunch of comments about putting it in, but first. The other one was more to show you how it should look once it was together. For some people, it's easier to build it the way I did it. Today, I'm going to do it the opposite way. I'm going to change a few of the dimensions. I'm going to use my same plan here, but the size foam I got this time was a little bit different. So I'm going to build it around my foam because the foam's expensive. So let's get to it. I'm going to go ahead and make all my cuts here, and I'll put the cut list in the description down below. So I made my new cut list here. Luckily, I have a piece of maple that is just about 10 inches wide. So I'm going to cut it as if it were 10. I might have to make some minor changes here and there to make it work. But instead of trying to take an 8-inch piece, glue a 2-inch piece to it, I'd rather make it out of solid pieces just to make it easier on myself. Make the piece look a little bit better, more solid. So the first thing I'll cut out of here is my back and my door. I nip the end just to get a nice clean cut. This is my 18-inch cut. 18 again. So the next thing I'm going to cut are the insides for the internal box here. This was 20, now it's 18. By making one 18-inch cut, I'll have enough to cut this in 3 pieces and then cut the bottom one in half to get my inside box out of one cut. So you're only going to see one cut right now. I'll cut them down later on. And I'm doing the same thing with my cut here. I've got my other 18-inch piece already flushed out at the back of the board so I can make these as exact as possible. Again, there may be some little trimming needs to be done, but for the most part, these pieces will be identical. So I'm gonna need my 2 sides now. My sides are gonna be the same. They're gonna be 11 by 3.5. So I've got this board here, which is definitely enough to cut 2 of them out of. So I'm gonna cut an 11-inch section out of this board. And I didn't pencil mark the others because I can see with my guided line here. You may not be able to see that, or if you don't have a laser. I'm cutting on the outside of my marks also because I want my internal dimensions to be like 11 inches, 12 inches. So the line is going to cut on the outside edge of that line, not on the inside or not on the line. Next cut out of the same board will be 20. This will be my top. So I've got my top. Again, these need cut down, but lengthwise cut. My inserts right here. My side pieces are here. My door is here, and my back is here. So this is my back. This is the one I've got to make 10 inches. It's already 10 inches, pretty close to it. All I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on my saw, and I'm just going to skim the edge just so I've got a nice clean edge. If your edges are fine, like this one's pretty good. I might actually not even skin this one. I can sand that out. This side, as you can see, it's a rough cut side, so I'm going to run this side down here just to where the blade touches it and just takes off the fuzziness on the outside of it, so to speak. So with that side smoothed off, I've got a little bit of room left over. I'm 10 1/8 inch. I'm just going to go ahead and set my saw to 10 inches and cut this 10 inches wide. This is going to be my door, so I'm going to cut it at 7 inches. Last thing I want to cut are the smaller pieces, which are going to be 2 inches wide. That way I can make sure all of them are exactly 2 inches or the same cut on the table saw. And I don't have to try to reset the saw to the exact size. 7 inches. I'm going to hit the sides next at 3.5 inches. And on the last one, you notice I skinned off the outside edge. I'm going to do the same thing on this one. I meant to mention that before I did it. But either way, got a nice clean edge on this side before you cut your sizes. Top now. Okay, I'm going to hit the top now. I'm going to take off this little rough piece here. I'm going to cut my top out off the plane. I'm going to do my internal box, which I'm going to make a little bit deeper than normal. Normally I make them 1 3/4 inches. I'm going to make this one 2 inches deep. That's going to leave me a 1/2 inch for the door on the side of the box. If I don't like the way it looks, I might change it, but for right now we're going to go with 2 inches. Now I only needed 3 of these. I cut the 4th one just because it was so close. That way I've got a spare for whatever. If nothing else, I got a piece of 2-inch stock if I need it later. So you can see our box is coming together now. I've got the top on, the 2 sides, the back piece is in. Here's my door. Here's my bottom, my top insert. The longer piece is going to be my sides. As you can see on mine here, if I put it together right now, this is a 3/4 inch wood I'm using. Once I plane it down to 1/2 inch, I'll have a gap here. If you're using stock wood already, you probably don't have to do this step. Or if you're using 1/2 inch lumber, 3/4 inch lumber, if you've done it to measure whatever you've got. I'm going to be planing mine down to 1/2 inch just to make it a little bit thinner and lightweight. But you may not have to do this step. And if you are going to run this through a planer, I suggest leaving all your pieces long, especially like these 2 little side pieces, because it's a lot easier to fit an 18-inch board through a planer than it is a 5-inch piece. So I'm going to throw these in the planer now, plane them down, and I'll be back. Now while you're waiting for this wood to come out of the planer, it would be a good time for you to go down to the bottom, click on the like and subscribe, and drop a comment in the box below. Let me know what you think of the video so far. Let me know if you have any other ideas or want to see me make something else. So once we're off the planer, you can see I'm back together now. I've got the lip that I want here. I've got my overhang that I want on the top. I'm okay with this. If you want to trim this down a little bit to make it a little thinner, you can. You can round your corners off. I'm just going to take these and round them over. We'll do that online, but if you want to make something. So here are all our pieces off the planer. Everything's the way I want it. I've got the overhangs that I want. I haven't cut my 2 side pieces yet. I actually might not even use those on this one. I'm going to try to glue it and brad it together. I'm not sure if I'm going to brad it. I'm going to glue it first. If it needs brads, I'll brad it. But I'm going to try to leave this bottom piece just floating by itself. That'll give me more space on the inside of it to make the concealment pocket a little bit bigger. I may change my mind before we get to the end of this video and put them in there, but as of right now, I think I'm going to leave them out. So I've taped my 2 sides up here so I can cut them both at the same time. That way I make the same cut on both sides, whether it's right or wrong, they both will match. And as you can see by my side here, I've got 4 inches from the door lid to the bottom, and I've got about a 1 inch overhang at the bottom. Make this however you want. I'm just going to bring this down here and round it off until it's flat. If you wanted to make like a little S or something through here, do whatever you want to with yours. I'm just making this one simple. So I'm taking a circle here and I'm making my rounded over edges. I've got some edges over there on my router. I'm trying not to use it today, at least for this project, until we go to round over parts. So I'm just using a 6-inch circle and making the curvature that I want. You can do this however you want, whatever shape you want. Again, if you want to make a fancy little S or something here, more power to you, but that's all I'm going to do is cut this little corner off here. I'm going to do that on my bandsaw. And of course, if you don't have a bandsaw, you can use a jigsaw, handsaw, whatever you want to round that off. Now before I untape them, I'm going to go ahead and hit this with a little bit of 80 grit. That'll get rid of any rough marks my bandsaw left, and then I can smooth out the bottom and make it one smooth piece coming around here. Okay, so we're back together with our edges back on. What I need to do now is determine what, if anything, I want to round over. Put it on the router to round it off. Again, you don't have to do this if you don't want to. Entirely up to you, your project. So I'm going to round this edge right here off. This is my back going up against the wall. So I'm just making little pencil marks on here so I know which one to round over. So that's my back piece on the bottom. So that'll just curve in, make it a little softer. My outside edges, I prefer them just to round outward. So I'm going to round them outward, not inward. Same on this side, round it outward. My door itself, I want to round the bottom half on the outside. On the top, I want to round the inside and outside. That'll give you room for your hinge to swing open and close. That gives you a little more clearance. And it's up in there and you don't really notice it once it's assembled that it doesn't that it's there for hinge reason and not for viewing reason. Now, if you don't mind having a little gap at the top, if you don't cut this piece and round it over enough, your hinge may bind up at the top, or you may have to actually bring your lid down a little bit further and have a smaller gap here. You're gonna have a gap here no matter what you do, but it'll be a larger gap if you don't round that edge over. Now, personally for me, I do this one piece at a time. It's up to you. You can take them all over there and mark them, do them however you want, but I'm gonna pull them off one at a time, round them over, set them back down. That's just because I'm scatterbrained and I'm usually thinking about 10 other things at the same time. And if I'm not careful, I'll end up rounding off the wrong edge. That's just how I roll. So I've got an 1/8 inch round over bit on here for my last project. I think I'm just gonna leave it like that. If I don't like it, I might change it to a 1/4. But we're gonna start with this. Again, this is my side piece. I'm gonna round the outside edge of this one, put it back and keep on going. So here we are back together again. Everything's rounded over the way I wanted it. I went ahead and rounded this one off to a 1/4 inch also to match this one. So I took the side that was like the 1/8 inch, turned it to the inside so you got a soft place to grab your fingers. I've only got about a 1/2 inch here to grab this with my fingers. You can adjust that however you want, make it shorter, longer. You can put a little handle in there if you want. If you want to put a little thumb lock on it, you can. I've just got mine so you can catch it with your fingers and flip it open. I'm ready to do this hinge. Now again, I am not a big hinge person. I don't do a lot of hinge stuff. So this is the other way I do it versus the other video. I'm gonna show you how I do it. Again, if you got a better way of doing hinges, please do them your way. This is just how I can get them on there. Again, the more I do hinge work, sure, the better I'll get. I'm gonna take these, I'm gonna measure in about 1.5 inches. So I'm gonna come 1.5 inches in this way, 1.5 inches in the other way. Take my hinge, my thinner side goes to my board that I'm attaching, my longer side goes into my door itself. Now these hinges actually come down and out as they open, so it should be able to put almost all the way flush at the top and still drop down a little bit before it comes out. These are inexpensive hinges, so they don't always work exactly like that, so you don't want to put all the screws in here yet. I'm just going to put the 2 in the slots. That way I can adjust them up and down once I get everything glued together. If I need to raise it up or drop it down a little bit, I'll be able to do that right here. So I've got a flat strip in the back. I'm basically putting this on top of my board. Since it's going to sit inside, make sure your door is facing the correct direction. Take the flat edge, push it against the back. That way I know my top and my door are flush. Your door should be just a hair smaller than your piece. If it's too big, it's going to bind up when you open and close it. If it's too small, you're going to have big gaps on the edge. So another reason to come in 1.5 inches is to leave yourself a little room. So if you have to trim this door down a little bit, you've got room to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it together. I'm going to just do this one side. I'm in my 1.5 inches. I'm going to make a couple holes here and here where the 2 slidey parts of the hinges are. The slidey parts, the adjustable parts. So here and here, I am going to pre-drill these because it's easy to blow right out the other side. And I've also got some 3/8 inch pan head screws. This hinges come with like a 1/2 inch screw. Since I'm using a 1/2 inch board, realistically, I could blow right out the other side with a 1/2 inch screw or just split the outside of it. Not a good look. So I'm going to pre-drill these. Try to go straight down as possible. A little piece of tape on there for my stop so I know not to go through my board. I'm going to put this side in first, then I'm going to put the other side in next. And again, just putting in the ones that slide up and down. I don't want to over tighten these yet. I just want them to still be able to slide. And again, that way I can kind of make sure they're both in the middle. When they're lined up, it gives me adjustment forward and backwards, or up and down, whichever way you're doing your hinges. So again, flush this thing out. Back piece is flush with my small stock. And I'm just going to go ahead and drill this one since I got it right here. And I'm going to repeat that on the other side. So with my hinge open, I took my side piece, which is 1/2 inch thick, put it in here. My pencil line was at the top of the slotted hole. This drug this one up to the top or the bottom, So basically it's adjusted as far apart as it's going to adjust now. I can use this piece of wood to make sure that I'm even on both sides when I do this. And again, just doing the slotted sides, I'm going to do this side and then put a screw on the other side. And again, I'm going towards the top of the screw hole this time, since I was at the top on the other one. One more thing, since this is going in the top, I'm going to go ahead and use the 1/2" screws that came with the hinge. Because if I go through the top or blow out the top, this is the actual decking plate for it. It's probably not going to blow out of the top, but if it comes through, at least you can screw it on into the piece of wood underneath of it. And since I'm using my scrap piece underneath here for an even piece, not worry about damaging it, but don't use a piece of finished wood under there if you're drilling through it. And same thing. Once I have that done, I can put my piece back up here. And now my hinge should open and close as it should once you glue it in. So it's assembly time. You can assemble this in whatever order you want to. These are the side inserts I was talking about maybe or maybe not using. If your door's nice and tight, you really don't need that, and you can save a 1/2" space on both sides. It does give it a little bit extra support on the inside for the whole structure, depending on how you're going to put this together. I'm just going to use glue on this and maybe a couple brads here and there. So I'm going to put these in after all, just so I've got some extra support, extra glue space to hold the box together. Again, if you're going to brad it, you can brad it, you can pin it, you can nail it, you can screw it together, whatever works for you. In my case, I'm just going to use glue and maybe a couple brads if I need to. Now I'm going to glue my back to my sides first. So this is my spare piece of 2" wood that I cut off earlier, just happens to be 18 inches. I'm going to use it to put at the top, and I'm going to use my bottom piece at the bottom just to keep me from caving it in when I clamp it together. I'm not going to put the top on yet. I'm just going to use the top to make sure all my corners are straight, so when I clamp it down, everything clamps in place. I'm going to let that sit for probably 5 or 6 hours before I move anything, and then I'll finish assembling the inside of it. If you're bradding this, again, put the glue in, put the clamps in, shoot your brads in, put your screws in, whatever you're doing, and then just keep on with the next step. Back in place. Keep you a damp towel or something, clean up any smudges or leftover glue. I'm going to put my sides in place. I'm just going to feel the top edges, line them up, and then I'm going to squeeze them in slightly, not hard. Take my top, put it in place, and make sure I'm touching everywhere. Once I do that, I'm going to spread it back apart evenly. Bottom piece goes all the way at the bottom, my spare piece goes all the way at the top. And we're going to clamp those together. When I do that, I'm going to lift this up a little bit once I clamp it, that way I don't glue it into place. But you don't want to accidentally glue it into place. It's fitting nice and flush. The bottom clamp on first. Square, even, just touching. Alright, side piece up all the way. Corners touching, sides touching, backs flush. This is raised up a little bit so it doesn't get glued into place. This is going to come up a little bit so it doesn't get glued into place. Slide my back out. Clamp over the edge. Squeeze easy. Just needs somewhat pressure on there. You don't need to clamp it and bow it all in. Just a little bit of pressure on it to hold it in place. And we'll take another clamp across this section. Same thing, I'm going all the way to the bottom. Squeeze it in a little bit. Then I can take this one and fix it to where it needs to be. Slide this one over a little bit. Make sure I'm touching at the bottom. Make sure my back's touching all the way. I'm going to look at it. Physically see that I'm even on both edges. If I'm not, I'm going to go ahead and adjust those. Hopefully you can see that on the camera. When I stand it up, I'm going to make sure I'm even here and even here if I am. I'm good. If not, loosen your clamps up and adjust it to where you need it. Alright, so the next day, got all the clamps off. I fit everything back together and made sure everything fit in place. We're going to start assembling the internal box now. The lid again is just floating. This piece slid right down in. I'm going to take the door off of the hinge part, and then these pieces I'm just going to glue into place. Again, if you're using brads or a thicker material and you want to screw it or whatever you want to do, you can skip these steps of gluing, but I want to keep mine nice and clean with just glue on it. First piece I want to glue in is the hinge piece on the top, and you need to glue this good if you're going to leave it glued. You want a good bit of squish out. You don't want so much you got to clean it up for hours or days, but you definitely want the squish on the end. As you'll be able to see, as I'm gluing this in, I'm trying to clamp it as many places as possible. You see my squish out there. I'm just basically taking my time, cleaning up all the squish out. If you're going to paint this project, it probably doesn't matter as much because you can cover it with paint or you can caulk those inside edges. If you're going to leave it as a hardwood finish like I'm doing this one, you probably want to get all the glue off you can. That way you're not leaving yellow stains, or it doesn't, if you try to paint it, you'll have lumps or clumps underneath of it if you're not careful. And I decided I'm not going to brad this together. I'm just going to leave it glued together. I'm going to leave it glued up overnight, and that'll give it plenty of time to dry. It's not going to go anywhere. We've got plenty of surface space for the glue to attach to. So unless you just took it and inspected it on the floor, it's not going to fall apart on you. Just ready to put the lid back in place. If it does not fit, shave off a little bit of the edge, just a small bit. I can now finish reattaching my door. Go ahead and tighten up the screws. Of course, if you wanted to put something on there, you could throw it in your CNC or in your laser engraver first. But we're going to reattach the door now, and we're just about done. Now this is a concealment box, so you can line the inside of it with foam. You can leave it open, whatever you want on the inside. And the same with the hardware down below. If you want to hang keys on it, whether you want to hang coats on it, you can put whatever hardware you decide down below. Hope everyone liked the video. Please click on like, subscribe, and again, drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think about the project. This will be another good time to like, comment, and subscribe while you're waiting on me to glue this together. Not a whole lot to say during this, but put the glue on. Make sure you clean up the glue squish out. Drop a comment down in the box below. Let me know what you think so far.